You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It's season 2. It's episode 86. The Cubs GM meeting plans. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Follow the socials. Fly the W670 on Twitter, Instagram, Fly the W on Facebook, or email us at flythew670@gmail.com. Crawly, happy Thursday. How you doing?
I'm still drinking the tears of the salty, crying Brewers fan, so I'm in pretty good shape.
I love it. All right, so we've got plenty to talk about, the reactions and the opinions to what happened with David Ross getting launched and Craig Counsell signing a new deal. Just don't stop.
Yeah, the baseball world is dealing with the aftershock of what David Haw has decided to call the Cubs coup. Is that right?
I believe that's what he's got. That's his new obvious shirts t-shirt, the Cubs coup.
Yeah, he's got to trademark that one. Snatching former Brewers manager Craig Counsell and firing World Series hero David Ross. So since that happened, remember we went on a live emergency podcast on Monday. A lot more details have emerged since then. We're going to take a look at this two ways, from the Cubs perspective and the Brewers perspective. Starting with the Cubs owner, Tom Ricketts. On Tuesday, after everything went down, former Cubs All-Star and radio analyst for Cubs games on 670 The Score, Ron Coomer appeared on the Mully and Haw show. Somehow, Dustin, you were able to get him Coom Dog out of his hibernation in Florida, put down the tropical beverage and come on here. But as I was kind of listening to what Coom had to say, I kind of felt like this was an interesting nugget that I heard him say.
I very unexpected to the extreme. I saw Tom Ricketts, saw Mr. Ricketts the last day of the season, up by the booths. He was right outside our booth in Milwaukee. And that was probably the most upset I'd seen Tom about our team. And understandably so. You know, they were expecting to go to the playoffs. They did not. And, you know, things are going to happen when your owner is that upset about the way things have gone for the last month. You know, there's going to be some changes or things are going to happen. And obviously they did.
So, you know, you and I both know Coom. We've listened to him all the time. I was surprised when he said, you know, the most angry or frustrated or upset that he's seen Tom Ricketts, you know, and that has to be saying something.
Absolutely. It definitely says a ton. That's the money shot out of that interview. Great interview. Also, you know, if Craig Counsell is good enough for the Coom Dog, I guess he's got to be good enough for me as well. Big fan of Ron Coomer. But what's interesting is earlier, I don't know exactly when that was, you know, it was the last day of the season. Tom Ricketts went on both Marquee and The Score talking about David Ross being their guy.
Yep, 100%. And that was definitely, you know, when you listen to that, I didn't think he was as upset as Coom kind of made it seem, but like, you know, Coom's not going to sit there and say something that, you know, if he obviously saw him out there and saw him upset, this is what Tom had to say about Ross on Marquee.
I think Ross, you did a great job. He creates a great clubhouse culture. The players love playing for him. He keeps a steady, balanced approach game in and game out that you need over the course of 162 games. And you know, I talked to him before the game today. He's as disappointed as anyone that we just couldn't quite pull it over the finish line. And so I think he did a good job.
So, you know, for me, I sit there and we talked about it when those came out. Because you remember Tom was on Sunday and I think Jed was the next day on Monday. And we said that there's certain lines that they all kind of, you know, talking points that they all have. And it seemed to me like that was going to be the talking point. They played well for Rossi. You know, they were 10 under, you know, got 12 over, all that stuff. But, you know, I just kept having this nagging feeling that there was some things that upset people about how that all played out.
Right. But what I'm going to have to believe, and what I'm going to hold firm on this is that if Craig Counsell wasn't available, David Ross would still be the manager of the Cubs.
100%. You wouldn't make this move.
We're getting rid of David Ross for anybody except Craig Counsell.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you on that. But the question then, Dustin, is If Seiya makes that catch, if the bullpen isn't all in shambles, if they make the playoffs, would they still make the move? I think that's a question that I think we'll never know.
We'll never know because, again, hypothetically, let's just play the hypothetical. Okay, let's say they make it to the postseason, so they're there in the postseason as opposed to Arizona. What if they had an advance like Arizona advanced? Right? What if they hadn't won a postseason game? Would that have been enough of a reason to have gotten rid of David Ross?
And so, that kind of takes us to what Jed Hoyer and some of his reaction, because we've finally heard from Jed Hoyer. And, Sahadev Sharma did a great investigative piece on how this all went down in The Athletic. Subscribe, I would recommend. I love it. I get a lot of stuff there. But according to Sahadev, on November 1st, right? So this is after the team no longer needed permission. You needed permission from the Brewers prior to November 1st. So on November 1st, Hoyer reaches out to Counsell, and they decide to meet up somewhere in the Chicagoland area, right? And so they wanted to make sure this was quiet. So Hoyer was the only person to meet with Counsell. Barely anyone in the front office knew it was happening. They never came to the Cubs offices adjacent to Wrigley Field. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. I know a lot of people in the Cubs social media world that live in that vicinity of Wrigley Field. And if you know who you're looking for, you can see them walking dogs, going for a stroll, everything. So Hoyer was absolutely not going to be seen anywhere near Wrigley with Craig Counsell. Do you remember when the Cubs got Theo, he was first spotted in a Starbucks and it jumped all over social media?
Yep, absolutely. Totally remember it. Yep.
And so he wasn't going to make that mistake. And so, how funny, but once they came to an agreement, Hoyer immediately books a flight to Florida to meet with Ross in Tallahassee, where Ross lives in the offseason. And the two, and this is Sahadev's words, the two had a long and at times tense conversation during which general manager Carter Hawkins called some staff and players to deliver the news, and word quickly spread throughout the team. So there's Jed in Florida, with a not friendly conversation probably, or not a fun conversation with Ross. And in the meantime, in the back, Hawkins is probably still in Chicago calling everybody to let him know. That is insane to me.
Yeah, it's really is insane. A lot of moving parts, a lot of people in the dark. I got to give him credit. I mean, I don't 100% agree with it, Crawly. That's not breaking news or anything like that, but I got to give him credit. They wanted to get something done, and they got it done. They absolutely had a plan that they wanted executed, and they got it done.
Right. And the interesting thing, though, is that Bruce Levine has been all over the place, talking to everybody. Bruce from Marquee and 670 The Score Baseball Insider. And he decided, he actually got to talk to Jed about the decision. Yeah. And here's a clip from that.
Great interview.
Tough decisions for tough people. Tell us how you got into this with Craig Counsell and hiring him as your new manager.
Well, from afar, he's always someone I've admired so much. I mean, going back to 2017, his teams every single year overachieved. I love the style of baseball they played, and it felt from afar like there was no weakness as a manager. He was good in the clubhouse and well respected. He managed the game incredibly well. He handled the media very well. So all those things I've sort of from afar always really admired, and I always kind of use the Bum Phillips quote about Bear Bryant, which is, he would take his and beat yours and beat his. He just felt like he was really good at figuring out how to get the most out of his teams. So, when he became a free agent and there was a possibility, certainly something you had to think about, because it's pretty rare for a guy that's at the top of that list to ever become available.
How does the chronology go when you have a manager in place that you really like personally, professionally, has done an awful lot of things for this organization historically, and then in your heart of hearts that your job at the end of the day is to have the very best people in the very best places? Yeah,
I mean, I try to look at it like I'm in this position, but my job is really to Cubs fans. My job is to the organization, and I have a responsibility to the Ricketts, and I view that as my duty, that when I have something that I believe will help us win more games short term and more games long term, I feel like I have to do that. That there's a lot of people that devote a lot of their life to the Cubs. There's a lot of people that spend a lot of money to watch the Cubs and do things with the Cubs, and like that's my job. And oftentimes it means making really hard decisions, but that's why I'm in this role. And if I don't feel that way, I shouldn't be in this position.
Hallelujah. Amen. I spend a lot of money. I go to a lot of games, and I say, like I said before, thank you so much. Again, I think the amount of cojones it took to pull off that move, to do and it all played out. That was absolutely cold-blooded, but 100% the right move for wins short-term, wins long-terms. I'm happy about it. But Dustin, there was one other quote that I heard. And remember, the Cubs had a 92% chance of reaching the playoffs in early September, eliminated the final weekend of the season. Hoyer and the Cubs felt that they left wins on the table. And to me, that kind of resonates a lot. Left wins on the table. You know, a lot of questions about
how many one-run games did they lose, Crawly? Right.
A lot of
how many games. How many games were they winning? How many games were they winning entering the 8th inning that ended up getting away from them? Too many.
Right. And again, a lot of these guys, they ended up looking tired, looking relaxed, or not relaxed, looking tired, looking out of gas. And you know, you just got to wonder if he did the best job that he could with some of these, making as far as your lineup and resting guys and making sure that you're fresh. And I think that is definitely something that Craig Counsell is known for, is just using his lineup and giving guys days off and all of those things. I'm just taking a look right here. In one-run games, the Cubs were 21-24.
Okay, so there's 3
below 500.
You're not even 3 below 500, right?
Right.
And I thought I saw a stat out there that Craig Counsell has won 51 run games.
Yeah, just phenomenal. Now, you know, we were wondering what the players would think, because obviously, you know, the close relationship, and poor Ian Happ, right? He decides, this is way before any of this comes out, he's got an event for his coffee business, Connect Roasters.
Yeah.
Right. And so he's doing an appearance that included a question and answer. And all I kept thinking about was that, what was it, Southwest commercial, Want to Get Away?
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine, like, okay, here you are with the Q&A, and now this massive story breaks, and you got to be the first player to respond about it. And, you know, Ian Happ is no dummy. He's the Cubs rep for the union rep and all that stuff. And he handled it diplomatically. Here's what Ian had to say when asked about it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a bunch of emotions. Rossi is a great friend, was an awesome manager. You know, maybe the guy that I'll play for the longest. Like, that's he and I have a fantastic relationship. He gave me a chance to play, and I really grew under him. So I have nothing but respect for him and admiration for everything that he did for us. You know, seen Counsell from across the field quite a bit over the last 7 years. Always been impressed by the way that he manages, the way that he controls the bullpen, his poise. And I'm excited to get going with him and pick his brain about, you know, everything baseball.
Great cut, Crawly. Great find there.
Yeah, I think that he really, you know, like I said, handled it perfectly. And there, you had to have looked across that dugout and see what the Brewers did. He was on that team, Ian Happ was, in 2018 when the Cubs lost game 163. Ian was on that team in 2017 where the Brewers almost took the Cubs with all the talent that the Cubs had on that roster. And so, you know, he has to be aware of that and how difficult it's been playing Milwaukee ever since 2017. It's always been a struggle, and the Brewers always seem to have their number. So I thought it was interesting, but you know, Dustin, before we jumped on this, a interview with David Ross was came out from the Tallahassee Democrat newspaper. They talked to a reporter named Jim Henry.
Not Jim Henry.
Not Jim Henry of the Ted Lilly heart attack signing.
We're missing a couple letters. Okay.
Jim Henry of the Tallahassee Democrat. And this is what Ross said, and it was very emotional, apparently. I think the thing that comes over me is that I'm extremely thankful for the opportunity to be honest. There were a lot of people who worked really hard alongside me. I'm really thankful for the 4 years I got coming from zero coaching experience to getting the chance to manage such a great organization that has impacted my life in a great way. There's great people there. I really don't have a lot of negative to say, to be honest. I get mad from time to time, but I have a lot to be thankful for. We had our conversation, Ross said, referring to Jed Hoyer. If my boss doesn't think I am a good manager, then he should move on. I don't fault him for that. If he doesn't think I'm the right guy, that's his job. That's his choice. I have my own thoughts and opinions that I will keep to myself. Anger and all that stuff is poison for me. It's time to figure out what's next. I have a lot of gratitude. Some of the toughest times in my career, whether it's getting released or different things in my career on and off the field, have been blessings at some point, have made me a better man. There's been a lot of good things after some really tough times in my life. Hopefully this is another one of them. So again, very diplomatic and biting his tongue. He's going to keep some of his thoughts and opinions to himself. Clearly not happy, Dustin, obviously, as we know.
No. And I think he was completely blindsided. I don't think he saw this coming for 1 second.
I don't think anybody did. And I don't even know if Jed Hoyer did until he decided to put some feelers out. And so that's the hardest part is when your boss says you're doing a good job and the owner's saying you're doing a good job. And, you think you have a job next season, you're going home just to relax and be with the kids. And next thing you know, you're out of a job. I mean, that's tough. So that's the Cubs perspective. From the Brewers perspective, we talked about Tom Ricketts. What about the owner of the Brewers, Mark Attanasio? Let me tell you something about this guy here. He was not thrilled with Craig Counsell jumping ship. I can at least attest to that. But I sat there, and when I took a look at this guy, he looks like a creep. When I sit there and I take a look at his quote right here, he said, quote, "We lost Craig, but I've reflected on this. Craig has lost us and he's lost our community. It's a really special place to be." Excuse me, Mr. Attanasio. I wish Boras and Bernstein was still on so I could play a who you crap and cut there. If you've been paying attention to Wisconsin politics, Attanasio and his Brewers threatened to relocate the team if the state didn't fund a $546 million taxpayer-funded financial package to upgrade American Family Field, a.k.a. Miller Park, a.k.a. Wrigley Field North. The ballpark's only 21 years old, Dustin. The team's going to kick in $100 million. But you're going to say Craig lost our community when you were sitting there threatening everybody to leave if you didn't get your money that the taxpayers are going to have to pay for, not out of, $100 million out of your pocket, but $546 million out of the taxpayers' pockets of Wisconsin. Don't who you crapping? That's all I got to ask.
That is a who you crapping if I've ever heard one. Yeah, he's a jag. There's no doubt about that. We don't need to waste any more time on that guy.
Yeah, when we take a look at GM Matt Arnold, he was more diplomatic. According to Jesse Rogers, Arnold said he was shocked. We've been super supportive of him and his opportunity to assess the market. That was up to him. In this situation, we put Craig first throughout the process, and I'm thrilled for him and his outcome. At the same time, we're in a position where we have to put our best foot forward, and we're going to do exactly that. As far as Brewers fans, Dustin, if you've been lucky enough to avoid Brewers Twitter, let me tell you, they're extremely pissed off, and Craig Counsell is the second coming of Benedict Arnold. How mad are they right now? So mad that the sign outside Craig Counsell Park in Whitefish Bay was vandalized with spray paint. They wrote the letters "ass" on there. The ballpark, formerly known as Water Tower Park, village leaders renamed it in honor of Counsell, who's a Whitefish Bay native, in 2012. That's the home to the village's Little League team. So, great job there with vandalizing that. But,
those are the losers, Crawly. Those are the losers in this whole thing. Guys that would vandalize over a manager leaving.
Yeah, cry a little bit more about it. And I think it's going to be, if you've ever been to a Cubs Brewers game, sometimes it can get testy. I've been down there and I've seen some fisticuffs. I've seen some words exchanged. And I think there's going to be a lot of heat coming here. I think that for Wisconsin people, I think that there is this, sometimes they feel like Illinois takes things from them as far as the good land, Lake Geneva, stuff like that. I think that they're pissed. I'm not kidding, Dustin. Hey,
they take the good land.
you ever hear of a fib? I'm just telling you, is that if you ever heard the term fib, look it up. I ain't going to say it on air, but I'm telling you right now, when the Cubs play that Brewers in that first series in Milwaukee,
Fine Illinois boy.
Yeah, right. I would say you better keep your head on a swivel and try to avoid any conflicts, because I got a feeling it's going to be a mess that very first series.
You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It's season 2. It's episode 86. The Cubs GM meeting plans. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. In this segment, we wanted to get a little bit more perspective from north of that shutter curtain. So Crawly talked to former Brewers pitcher and current Brewers pre- and post-game analyst Tim Dillard about Craig Counsell and the 294 rivalry. It just got a little more intense.
Joining me on the Fly the W podcast, you see him on Bally Sports talking Brewers, former MLB pitcher and Brewer, Tim Dillard. Tim, it has been 48 hours since the shocking move of the Cubs sweeping in and picking up Craig Counsell. What have you heard so far? What is the vibe going on in Wisconsin right now?
Wait, what happened? I'm just kidding. I actually live in Nashville, so I haven't really had a chance to, hear too much about the rumblings. But I, just seeing what everybody's putting on Twitter, and of course, everybody has a very, I don't know what the word is, but they got a very strong opinion about it. Me, I feel like Craig will end up doing some sort of press conference, and we'll probably get to the gist of, the decision making per se. But I don't know. I think no one saw this coming. I didn't see it coming. I actually was like, I'll be the first one to say I was wrong if he leaves the Brewers. So yeah, this will be the second time I get to say it, and I was way off. I didn't have any idea what was about to happen, but I don't know. I think it's super interesting. I think he's a smart guy, so I knew he probably knew exactly what was going to happen if he decided to go through with it. So I think all the backlash and everything coming, he's ready for.
Now, that was the thing is when I saw David Stearns and going to New York and all that stuff, I said, Counsell's got to be going to New York, or if he's not going to New York, then he's staying with the Brewers. Those were the options. And I know he was, looked at it with the Guardians as well, but, just seeing how all of this is coming out now, I think one of the things that blows my mind is that I've been reading so much about the whole story about how they pulled this off, because in today's day and age, how do you keep something like that secret? Because I keep thinking, imagine if David Ross finds out while he's under contract that the Cubs were talking to Craig Counsell. I mean, that could have been a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea how it went down. I don't know all the rules and how all that works, but yeah, I think the reason it was such a surprise in one regard is that he goes to a team that already has a manager that is liked, right? And then it to be an arch rival. Because they won't even trade players in the division. Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, there's no telling how many times teams in whatever division they're in are always looking for a player, and it's like the first thing they say is, we're not dealing this guy to anyone in our division. So I don't know. It's definitely strange. But I will say this, being part of the baseball world, it's good to be wanted. It really is. And I've only had that maybe a couple of times in my career where a team actually wanted to sign me as a minor league free agent or whatever. And it's a great feeling. So for Craig Counsell to have kind of the upper hand going into this offseason of trying to make some money and get in a position to, maybe have a bigger payroll and to be wanted like that, that's a really good position. So in that way, I'm happy for him, because, opportunities like this only come around every once in a while. And I played for 18 seasons and I never got an opportunity where I felt like I had the upper hand in any way. He played like 16 years in the big leagues, been coaching for a while now. So this may be that one big move where he has a chance to, make something happen. So for him in his whole career, this is probably the biggest moment. Well, I will say he did win a couple of World Series. Those were big, but I just mean as like a logistical move where he has the decision-making skills to do it. This is probably a big one.
Now, of all the major league managers you had, who do you think had the biggest impact on you, biggest influence on you?
Ooh, I would say all of them had some sort of influence. Maybe I didn't like all of them. I don't know. The first one that comes to mind, I always enjoyed Ron Renicky, but I really loved Dale Schwame, right? So he was, managed the Cubs as well. Schwayme gave me very, very good practical advice. And it seemed like every day. And it just kind of spilled out of him everywhere he went. And that was what he was like as a hitting coach, what he was like as a manager. And really, I get to see him too at like fantasy camp for the Brewers. And he just knows a lot, right? And guys like that, when you're around, especially the ones that are at the top and leading you, when they open their mouth, you open your ears because you know you're about to hear something great.
I guess the thing I was thinking of is, growing up as a baseball fan, and I'm sure you were a fan, and you play in the majors, is I guess I grew up with a lot of like big personality managers, whether you're talking about Lou Piniella, whether you're talking about, Joe Torre, go ahead, whoever have you on that.
Sure.
Dusty Baker's still in there in the 70s. But I think the trend that we've seen more and more is the front office is getting more involved. And Joe Madden spoke about this. The front office is getting more involved and the manager having less of an impact. You saw a lot of guys getting signed for cheap contracts. And all of a sudden now Craig's going to be making, the highest. He's basically doubling the highest salaries. Do you think that maybe people are going to start moving that direction again to kind of the bigger name managers? Because I think with David Ross, a lot of the question was, where do David Ross decisions start and the front end office's decisions end? We didn't know who was making what calls on anything. And I feel for that amount of money that Craig's going to be able to make the calls himself.
I mean, I think it would be, you pay him that much money and then you don't want his opinion. I mean, that would be negligent. And he has so much experience too. And just being around him, he has so much feel. Players, coaches, we talk about feel all the time. And it's just it's having an awareness of every situation and how that comes across. And he just knows it when it comes to players. He knows it as a manager. I think he really enjoys the manager, role, and he likes interacting with the players, and it's a challenge for him, and it's a fun challenge. I don't think he really likes doing all the interviews he gets to do all the time. Everybody's like, hey, we talked to you before the game. Hey, we talked to you after the game, and all this stuff, which kind of comes with the job. But I think every club wants a qualified manager that's easy to work with, that knows what they're doing, so that you can bounce ideas off of them. I mean, there may be managers that can do it really well on the field, but they have no idea who's out there when it comes to who should we pick up. Maybe that's the case. But, I mean, as far as Craig Counsell, I just feel like he's so well-rounded that any front office would it would be not smart to just heed his advice. He knows whatever team he's on, he's going to know it inside and out, and he knows what the team needs or doesn't need. So the manager needs to be that guy. But to your point, yeah, I don't think every manager across Major League Baseball is that guy.
Right. And so, one of the funny things that Jed talked about is that there was almost like a jealousy because whether it was Jed or Theo and Jed, they were putting these teams together. 2017, they barely edged out the Brewers, right? 2018, they lose in game 163. 2019, they lose, and so the Cubs, a major market team with a lot more dollars to work with and back, when you talk about even for 2018, 2017, I mean, the Cubs had big names, the Bryants, the Baez, the Rizzos, and somehow this is a picture. I'm putting it up for the podcast listeners. This was a picture from Milwaukee. I was actually at this game. I think Keston Hiura hit a walk-off on this one. And you just basically see Theo and Jed on the field, just like, how the hell does this keep happening? And Jed brought that up, is that as being on, rivals from the I-94 rivalry, he always just wondered how Craig always seemed to do it and how these Brewers teams always seem to just always get the best of the Cubs. What do you think it is about Craig Counsell specifically that just kind of, I don't know, it just seemed to always be able to find a way to beat the Cubs?
I think it's just consistency. If you look, especially at this season, I mean, look at the Pirates got hot at one point, the Reds, Cubs, everybody, it seemed like. Even didn't the Cardinals do really well maybe out of the gate and then just completely fell apart? But that's what it takes for a season. 162 games, you got to be consistent. You can't let the highs get too high, the lows get too lows. You stay consistent. These are all the cliches that we hear all the time. Well, how do you do that? And it's all about managing workload. It's about putting guys in good positions. And it's not just coincidence that the Brewers for the last 5 or 6 seasons have been the most consistent team in the NL Central. So it makes sense for the Cubs to go, okay, well, we want that. So we're just going to pay this guy to come here. Because they know for them to win the Central, you got to go through Milwaukee. They know that. So I mean, for them, it makes sense. You know, it may look like they're playing dirty to Brewers fans, but I mean, it makes sense to them. If they want to win, they've forked out the money and they got, a big piece in the Brewers' success. So I think the Brewers are going to take it as a challenge. I mean, just think about those games at Wrigley and American Family Field. I can't wait. I'm going to be laughing. It's going to be so much fun.
I was looking at the dates because I'm like, do I want to go to Milwaukee for that first game where Craig Counsell is back? What kind of reception? Because I mean, I don't know how much you saw this, but I know that there's a park, I think in Whitefish, the Craig Counsell Park, and somebody spray painted ass, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but I did see a lot of vitriol, directed towards Craig for the decision to go to the Cubs.
Well, I think, people are passionate about sports. They're passionate about their team. And they get worked up about it, which, I mean, that's what you want. You want fans that care. What if he moved? What if he left and everybody was just like, oh, great. That's awesome. That's what we all wanted, I think people take it to extremes, of course, in the instance you're talking about. And I'm sure there's others. But at the end of the day, it's baseball. This stuff happens. It's happened before. Baseball's been around long enough that there's really not a whole lot of stuff that hasn't happened. Every once in a while you'll see something that, there'll be a record that gets broken and things like that. But this stuff happens. And as a player, as coaches, they know this. This is the way baseball works. And it's like you come to the clubhouse every day and you see the same guy, and then one day you come in and he's been released. And you're like, oh, man, and it hurts. And you reach out to the guy and you give him a hug and you keep in touch with him. But at the same time, you do your job. And that's just, and then they'll interview guys. Well, what are you going to, how is the clubhouse with this guy not there? It's like, oh, dude, we love this dude, but he's not here anymore. And we can't stop everything. We keep going and we do the best we can. And that's what organizations do. They're like, well, okay, it's on to the next manager. It's about getting it right. That's really what baseball is, especially at the top when you're managing. General manager, baseball ops, all that. It's all about getting it right for your club.
Now, when you talk about the next manager, whoever, I mean, there are some names being kicked around. Have you heard of anybody that could potentially, I know Craig's bench coach was mentioned as possibly being in the running. Is there someone you think would be a natural fit for the Brewers?
Well,
I heard Ricky Weeks. I think. Yeah,
there's a lot of speculation. I want to say first and foremost that I think I could do the job.
Yes.
I don't think I would do it well. But yeah, I've heard a lot of the names. I had a lot of people reach out to me over social media as well. Thank you, people that reach out to social media in a nice way. That's great. Just asking, like, what do you think? And I don't know. Baseball is just one of those things. Like, it's like the True Hollywood story. Like, you think but you have no idea. Nobody knows what they're gonna do. I actually like Matt Erickson a lot. I brought this up on a radio show, I think yesterday. They were asking me, and he hasn't really been brought up or looked at, but he knows the team. He's managed in the minor leagues. He's been, right there this entire time. But I think Pat Murphy's earned it. If he wants to be in Milwaukee and be the guy, I think he's going to have a really good chance at getting that job. But he may want to be bench coach in Chicago. So I don't know. Again, it's fun to be wanted, and especially with multiple teams trying to, get you. That's an interesting combination. So I don't know. I don't know who it's going to be. Ricky Weeks. I don't know if he really wants that job. I haven't talked to him. I'll see him for Brewers fantasy camp coming up soon. But I don't know. I don't know if that's what the next step is. He's been in the organization for a couple of years in his role, and he really likes it. So I don't know. When you undertake the managerial job, you have to take everything that it comes with it. So a lot of guys that haven't done it before would actually want to go through the minor leagues and kind of work their way. I know Craig didn't do that. And so Ricky's kind of in that same boat. If he wanted to do it, he may be jumping right in.
Now, I saw this quote from Brewers owner Matt Attanasio, who said, quote, "We lost Craig, but I've reflected on this. Craig has lost us and he's lost our community. It's really a special place to be." I thought that was kind of bizarre considering all the drama about moving the team if they didn't get the referendum on the taxes to fix the stadium or something like that. I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to figure out, I just thought from an owner, that was kind of a weird kind of comment, especially considering Craig still has home up there and family up there and is part of the community.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it was a Zoom chat. I think I was invited to, I had something I had to do. I think I was at basketball practice with my kid, with my youngest. So I missed it, but yeah, I saw the quote. I don't know. Just to the point of talking about how special the Milwaukee community is the fact that we're right now on this chat, that you're chatting with me. And the only reason you're doing that probably is because I'm a broadcaster for the Brewers. And the only reason I'm a broadcaster for the Brewers is bizarre because I was with the Brewers a long time, but not in the big leagues. Right. But through social media and just kind of the way my career panned out, for whatever reason, I was able to get this job. So it's a very tight-knit group, I feel like, with this community when it's the Brewers. They love their people. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why people love to high-five me on the concourse, but I love it. I high-five them back. They say really nice thing. Dude, we love you on the broadcast. I'm like, this is great. Let me go get my boss so you can tell my bosses this. But yeah, they love their people. So they're very passionate about it. And again, you want that as a fan base. You want people to care. And the Brewers fans care, man. And when you're in, you're in. So yeah, as far as I know, I'm still in, hopefully, for a long time.
As somebody that has spent a lot of their life up and down between Wisconsin and Illinois, I understand what a fib is and all that stuff. So I think the fact that there is kind of like a feeling of resentment, when people come and they call it Wrigley North. And like you said, it's just both passionate fan bases, whether you're talking Bears, Packers, or Cubs, Brewers. I think that's what Bud Selig was looking for when he moved the Brewers to the Cubs division, to the NL Central,
I mean, maybe you're seeing a lot of MLB stepping in and making logistically everything a little easier. Like, why are teams that are so close never play each other? Well, okay, let's open it up and everybody plays everybody now. And the teams should be closer together. And I think they could still do some finagling, especially if they start trying to add new teams in the future, maybe get a couple of new teams in the MLB. But I don't know. To set up a rivalry doesn't seem, that it seems like it'd be tough to do on purpose. But I don't know. Every team has a rival. And I think, before nobody really cared, but when they got moved into the same league and same division, I think that was kind of it. You have to pick somebody. Right. I think Chicago and Milwaukee, they picked each other. But it's fun. Those games are so much fun. My son, we were at a Cubs. No, we were watching it on TV. One of the Cubs games, I think late in the season. It was Cubs and Brewers, and my 8-year-old was like, I think the Cubs did something good, like hit a double, and the whole place cheered. And he was like, why are they cheering? He couldn't figure out that there were tons of Cubs fans there. And maybe you don't get it as much at Wrigley, but you still get it. Brewer hits a home run at Wrigley. You hear it. There's people there. And it's great. I think it's healthy. It's a healthy thing. People can make it unhealthy, but it's a fun atmosphere.
Now, for obviously we know Craig Counsell from him being on the other side, but if you were talking to a Cub fan, why should they be happy that Craig Counsell is coming and now to Chicago?
Well, if they're a fan that knows who, knows the Cubs and knows who Craig Counsell is, then I think they should be excited. or just look at how upset, Brewers fans are. Should tell you everything you need to know. But David Ross he's been there, he's done that. And, he, as far as everything I've heard, he's a good manager. So, that kind of coming out of nowhere, nobody likes to be surprised like that. So, I could see why the fan base is kind of, a little bit apprehensive maybe, but I don't know. They should be excited. Craig's great. I love him. I was teammates with him and he's just been the ultimate professional in a lot of ways. And this was a very surprising move, but I think whatever he does, success follows him. So hopefully that doesn't happen with y'all.
We're hoping it is, but like I said, I just like Jed Hoyer, I would always sit there and I was somebody that did not like Craig Counsell as a player. Why? Because he always got the big hit. He always got the big hit. He was one of those things that you hated him when he was on the other team, on your rival. But now that he's coming here, and I would sit there and I'd be like, literally, I would look at the lineup and I would look, position by position. Obviously it's different, on paper or whatnot, but I always be like, God, the Cubs look stronger than the Brewers. And somehow I'd see the Brewers ahead of the Cubs in the standings. And so for me, I just always said, and I've been saying this, I said it before with you, I've said it on other podcasts, that to me, Craig Counsell was the best manager in the NL Central. And there is no doubt in my mind. And I think now he's on the Cubs. And now that he's here, I am super excited and looking forward to the start of this season.
Yeah. I mean, some people are just born for it. For example, 2010 spring training, I was over the top pitcher, and I show up and they go, "No, we want you to throw sidearm," which ended up being one of the biggest moments of my career. My first 7 years, I was throwing over the top. I played another 11 throwing sidearm. So I was like, well, I didn't think this was going to be my path, and end up being my path. And I did it for a couple of days through a couple of bullpens, and I'm trying to figure the whole thing out because it's all new grips. It's all new pitches. How do I pitch against lefties? How do I pitch against righties? So I found myself in spring training out in left field, and Counsell's out there, and I just kind of asked him. He'd been around. He'd seen everybody, every kind of pitcher, right? And I asked him, I'm like, advice on how a left-handed hitter would face a right-handed sidearmer like me. And got the perfect answer. And he would follow up with me, as days went by in spring training. And I actually got called back up as a sidearmer for the first time in 2011. So it was about a year later, and ended up getting a win. We were in Miami playing at the football stadium, and Counsell was playing third. It was a day game. And I think we were we had the game, and then we were losing the game. And I was the last resort. They weren't going to throw any other pitchers in the bullpen. So here I am. And I got 4 guys on base or whatever it is. And anyway, I got a ground ball to Counsell at third, and he ended up fielding it, falling out of bounds, and, throws the ball home and gets the guy at the plate. Like, just an amazing play. This guy is just the most prepared. That's what I always got from him. He's just super prepared as a player. Now you see him as a manager, and it's hard to out-prepare the guy. He's going to see all the situations while planning ahead as well. And sometimes, he doesn't do everything perfect. I don't think he would say he does everything perfect. And he's had some moments where even, we're trying to figure out why he would do that. But one thing that baseball is you don't see everything. There's so much going on behind the scenes that you would never know. And I still have a lot of teammates in the game and friends and stuff. So I get to hear some of the reasons and you're just like, you can't really tell anybody, right? Nobody really knows and can't share, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So some of the moves that happen, you're always kind of like, well, and I always chalk it up to, we don't know everything. We know that the information we have, maybe this wasn't the best move or this was the best move, but there's always something out there. But yes, it's hard to out prepare Craig Counsell.
I'm looking forward to it, Tim, and I'm hopefully looking forward to seeing you up in Milwaukee for a Cubs Brewers game, and we can show everybody how we can be civil fans, enjoy a cold one, and root our teams on.
Yeah. Well, if I'm working, I can't drink on the job. I've been told.
I'll have one for you and one for myself at the same time.
Yeah, there you go. I'll toast you some water.
Yeah. Tim Dillard, tell everybody where they can follow you and where they can find your work as far as on the Bally Network.
Oh yeah. If I sign back with Bally, which I hope so, I'll be on Bally Sports Wisconsin, but you can go to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, pretty much anything, YouTube, and it'll be at Dim Dillard. I'm actually just launched a thing called Dim Zoom. So if you ever wanted to get and sit with me, I'll let you do it for free. But Dim Zoom, yeah, I'm trying to plug that right now, and you're the first time I get to say it out loud. So yeah, you get to sit in a Zoom call with me, and if it's like a little league team or if it's a high school team or college or one-on-one, there's a lot going on up here in this head and a lot of experience, and now I'm ready to throw it on to other people.
Absolutely awesome, Tim, and definitely people should check that out. Thank you for showing up, and it's going to be a fun one this year, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, everyone's excited, and it's mid-November.
Take care, Tim.
Thanks.
This is season 2, episode 86 of the Fly the W670 podcast. Don't forget to listen, download, review. Most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. All right, Crawly, the winter meetings ended quickly. There was a flu bug that went through that place. So a day of the meetings got canceled. Did you hear about that?
I did hear about that. They thought it might have been food poisoning, but now they know it is a virus. And so what a mess. But they did get, the off season has officially kicked off when those meetings get rolling. MLB front office execs, agents, and media spent the last couple of days in Scottsdale, Arizona, start the feeling out process. This is where teams start to talk trades, meet with agents about their clients, and a lot of rumors get started. And so
a lot of rumors.
Obviously, the big story was that Craig Counsell news, but there were other Cub nuggets coming out of there. Dustin, we know the Cubs have needs at first, third, starting pitching, the bullpen, and they're definitely looking to add some big boppers, whether it's re-signing Cody Bellinger or looking at one of the other top-tier free agents or trade targets like Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto, or Pete Alonso. And so Cubs GM Carter Hawkins was asked, how are they going to address some of those needs? What's going to be trade, free agencies? And so this is what Carter Hawkins said as far as the plans for this offseason.
We're going to be active in both markets, certainly, trying to figure out what the best move for the Cubs are. And my expectation is you might see a mix of those things, but who knows what the next few months will bring. It always is a surprise, and that's what makes this job fun.
All right, a little bit of both is what I think that's pretty obvious.
A little bit of buy-in, a little bit of trading. They're not going to let on too much. Give you a couple little hints here and there, but nothing concrete, obviously.
Right. Now, clearly there is no bigger free agent this offseason and possibly of all time than Shohei Ohtani, the guy that we assume is going to be the AL MVP for the second straight season. Clearly, every team would want to add this Japanese superstar to their team. Think about, Dustin, the amount of merchandise he would sell, the amount of new followers a team could get from the Japanese market. I mean, it just blows your mind. I do not think he will pitch again. I think after 2 Tommy Johns, I think
wait.
Done.
You don't think he ever pitches again?
I don't. I don't. Not
that changes everything, Crawly. That changes everything, in my opinion.
I'm just going to tell you, there's not a lot of guys that come back from 2 Tommy John surgeries, and if you're going to pay this guy a heck of a lot of money, whatever happens, Dustin, you're going to pay him a heck of a lot of money. Would you risk having something help into that elbow again?
Well, but again, you're paying him. You're potentially paying him though, like he's going to pitch. So I mean, that's a lot of money to pay a DH, $500 million.
It may be less than that, Dustin. I don't know.
Well,
but
I know none of us know for sure. Okay, listen, I get that. None of us know absolutely, positively, 100, and I don't believe in anything over 100%. So 100%. But listen, I don't want to pay anybody $400 million. I want the Cubs. I want the Cubs to spend $500 million, but not on one guy. Not on one guy.
I 100% hear it, and I think it'd be, to me, I'm going to guess closer to $400 million is what I'm going to guess. And I think
are you okay? Are you okay with $400 million for a DH?
I mean, God, he is such a game changer. I mean, if you're asking my preference, I think I would roll my dice with Juan Soto, who has less injury history and is much younger. That would be where I would go with. If I was spending $400 million, I would go more towards Soto than Ohtani. That would be my opinion. But when you talk about Ohtani and you think about what he'll do to that fan base, how many people would maybe buy the marquee app that hadn't previously, all the money revenue he's going to bring in, it's going to be tremendous.
Right. Well, that's one of the numbers that we have to figure out, Crawly, and maybe we need to find a business expert. I could look into that. Is what kind of revenue would the Cubs gain through the Marquee Sports Network in Asia, in Japan, with Shohei?
Right. And you're talking jersey sales,
right? What are we talking about here? Well, I mean, jersey sales. That's one thing, and I'm not going to downplay that, but I'm talking like the thing that keeps repeating itself. It's like an insurance policy. 10 years of monthly subscribers to the Marquee Sports Network. That's got to be huge, do-re-mi.
Oh, totally. And I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about everything from ticket sales to concessions to jerseys to Marquee Sports app to everything. I went a few years back. The Cubs played the Angels in spring training. We went to Tempe Diablo Stadium, and our friend John Maley was there, and we wanted to go say hi to John. And the Cubs were playing, and Madden was managing over there, and it was one of those things that when I went there and I'm walking around, I got interviewed by a Japanese news team about Shohei and all that stuff. And it was I had never found it on YouTube or anything. If any of our listeners can find it, but it's that amount of craziness. And if he comes to Chicago and you had Ohtani and you had Seiya, I mean, it would just be nuts. It would just be nuts.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. There's no doubt about it.
Odyssey Insider and USA Today baseball writer Bob Nightingale said this about the Ohtani market. The Dodgers remain the heavy favorites. The Chicago Cubs and Rangers are serious contenders, with several GMs saying that the Cubs may be the most aggressive team for his service. And it would be foolish to count out the Red Sox, Mets, or even the San Francisco Giants.
Well, I think the San Francisco Giants are definitely – that makes a lot of sense. I think it's the Dodgers, the Cubs, and the Giants. I mean, Crawly, how many guys did the Giants miss out on recently, right?
Yeah, they were going to spend big money.
They swung and missed on a handful of guys.
Right. When you talk about – they were in on the Aaron Judge deal. They had the deal finished with the shortstop with Correa. And so, yeah, I mean, they want to get somebody. And if you remember when Shohei was first figuring out where he wanted to go, the Chicago Cubs were the only non-West Coast team he visited with. So just something to keep in mind.
What do you think that's about?
I think that especially back then, the Cubs had a winning reputation, the clubhouse, major market. I think that all of those things are going to play a role for Shohei Ohtani. Okay. I think that, location wise, geographically, when you're on the West Coast, you're much closer to Japan, obviously. But let's be honest, man, either way, it's a long trip. And you know what? It's not like he's traveling in economy,
Yeah.
So I think
he's not on Southwest in the middle seat in the back row.
Right.
Next to the bathrooms. That's not where he's sitting, huh?
No, you don't got the seat by the toilet and the drink cart bumping his elbow. But another question that Hoyer was asked in the GM meeting had to do with Stroh's decision. Hoyer said, in this market, I think he felt he would secure a multi-year deal. And I think that was a priority. But yeah, it's not often when you're really I truly don't know which direction this was going to go. And so, Jed was just like one of us, we, surprised, I think, just surprised by that decision and saying to yourself, wow, I have had the chance to interview and talk to Stroh, and being a starting pitcher in MLB at only 5'7", you got to have a lot of faith and belief in yourself.
It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. It really is.
Right. And I truly believe, as far as Stroh is concerned, that he would be one of those guys that believes in himself and believes that his work ethic and what he's going to do, he's going to sell himself to a team and get a couple-year deal. So
I'll be curious to see where that is. I'm not saying he's a bad pitcher or anything like that, but I'll be really curious to see. I mean, does he want to win? Does he want to make money? I mean, some combination of both. I just wonder exactly what his priorities are.
I think one of the big priorities is winning, but obviously a multi-year deal comes out of that too as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
so let's say,
that, right?
if
we all want a multi-year deal, right?
Right. If it's a 3-year deal at, let's say, he was supposed to get paid by the Cubs $21 million for 2024. Let's say he gets 3 years at 13. Okay. Now all of a sudden that changes the equation a little bit. So another interesting thing we heard about was Christopher Morel was talked about at the GM meetings.
Yes. A lot of Christopher Morel buzz, I hear.
Right. And what we found out is that Morel would be playing this month in the Dominican League. We knew that already, right? We talked about him going to play for Águilas Cibaeñas and in the Dominican League, the Lidom.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. We assumed that he would be getting a lot of playing time at third base. Hold up. Not the case, said Jed Hoyer. Here's what he had to say. It's an ongoing conversation, but we've talked a lot about finding him a home. And I do think we want to give him some work at first and see how he reacts to that. I mean, he's shown he can play third, he can play second, he can play the outfield, but finding him a home for him is something that would be really valuable. That's something we talked about. Hoyer continued. I think we have a very capable second baseman. We have a guy that won a Gold Glove, so that's not a spot we're going to put him. I think another team might be able to put him there and have him do that. I think it's both marrying those things. We really have two capable corner outfielders. I think that's why some of the conversations around first base make sense. It kind of fits what we need a little bit and fits our needs and potentially his needs. So we thought third base would be where he would be playing, but when he comes to play for the Dominican League, he's going to be playing first base, Dustin.
Yeah, that does surprise me. That surprises me that they're not. I mean, I would be banging balls into the ground at third base and making him field them. That's what I would be doing. But,
right, and
I mean,
you know,
I'm not Jed Hoyer, right? I'm not in charge. I'm not Carter Hawkins. I'm not Jed Hoyer. I'm going to trust them. I continue to keep trusting them, seeing what exactly they can do. They know a hell of a lot more than I do. I believe it or not. I can admit that. So let's see what happens.
Well, you know, the Cubs have been trying to solve those first base woes since Rizzo went to New York. You know, Schwindel, Mancini, Hosmer didn't work out. Matt Mervis had an audition. That didn't work out. I'm sure he'll get another look in spring training. Now, of course, Cody Bellinger played well at first. And besides Shohei Ohtani, Cody's probably the biggest name as far as position players to be in the free agent market. Question is, where is he going to go? We also had another Odyssey insider and guest on the Score, John Heyman. And here's what he had to say about Cody.
Yeah, I mean, Bellinger and Chapman would be 2 and 3 on the hitting market. Bellinger, I think it's ultimately going to be a Cubs-Yankees battle. We do hear he did love it on the north side of Chicago. Obviously, he transformed himself, became that MVP-type player again. He's had 3 superb seasons. Obviously, had a couple not great offensive seasons anyway in between, but he was injured for those seasons. So I think that we're looking at that as kind of an aberration. Terrific all-around player, and he does fit the Yankees perfectly. Brian Cashman was out here yesterday saying they need 2 outfielders, including a center fielder. Bellinger's a great center fielder and a first baseman. So I think we're looking at a Yankees-Cubs battle there. He would fit the Giants as well. I hear there's many teams in on him, but he's been a major market team with the Dodgers and the Cubs. So I think ultimately he's going to end up with one of those 3 teams, most likely Cubs or Yankees.
Cubs or Yankees, Dustin?
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? Cubs or Yankees. Hopefully he enjoyed himself more here. That's all you can hope for, right? You got to hope. But here's the thing: you can't let him also hold you hostage. I think at some point, you know, they've got to be able to say, Hoyer and Carter Hawkins have to be able to say, you know, this is what we want to pay you. We believe we're offering, you know, we're being competitive here, but you've got to let us know. We can't just sit here all day holding the bag.
Well, this becomes
because then you might miss out on everybody, right? You could miss out on everybody then.
Right. And one thing to kind of keep in mind, and this is not a name that we've brought up on this podcast before, but a name we heard in the GM meetings that Bryce Harper will be playing first base. He's not going to be in the outfield again. What does that mean for Cub fans? Rhys Hoskins will no longer be with the Phillies, and he will be on the free agent market. So Hoskins injured his ACL in spring training. He's a free agent this year. He is one of those Philly hitters that Cubs coach John Maley, who was just brought back to the team, major league team, he worked with Hoskins. Hoskins has a great eye at the plate for a slugger. He averaged 36 home runs per 162 games with an 846 OPS. So not only is a home run hitter, but he's a guy that gets on base, and that could be an interesting option, Dustin.
Yeah, look at who's connecting some dots there, Crawly. Nice job. Yep, makes a ton of sense, right? Makes a ton of sense.
Absolutely. And Dustin, finally, it wouldn't be the GM meetings without some Scott Boras poetry. Boras, the Uber agent who has the best collection of baseball talent, always brings his witty play on words regarding his clients to the GM meetings. And with Cody Bellinger being one of his clients, this is how he waxed poetic.
You've got a 5-tool player. Obviously, in the years prior to coming to the Cubs, he had, had a partial performance due to the just lack of strength. He had surgery, broken leg, all those things. But I think it's pretty evident that when you have youth and you're 28, you're a rare free agent. You have a lot of options. But when he came to Chicago, he just feasted on major league pitching. And really, I think Chicago got the comforts of a full belly So they're going to have to loosen their belts to keep Bellinger. Cody did have a great experience in Chicago. I mean, it's a great meeting. It's a wonderful place to play. But where Cody can play and play well, he feels he can play well anywhere. And a lot of this has to do with ownership. It has to do with their commitment. It has to do to their vision of what they're going to do to, develop the other track, to do the things that are necessary to make this club a continual winner over a long period of time.
So we got the full belly, and Cubs ownership are going to have to loosen their belts now if they want to keep him. You know what? I don't care what anyone says. I think Scott Boras is hilarious. And you know what? If that was your son who was going out in the free agent, you want Scott Boras representing him.
Oh, no doubt about that. Come on. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, he's good for baseball. He's good for his clients. There's no doubt about that. He's good for podcasts. He's good for sports talk, morning shows. Yep.
Now, Dustin, we have a couple little other Cubs nuggets outside of the winter meeting.
There's other news besides the manager and Cody Bellinger. There's other news other than that.
Oh, yeah. Some of it Cub fans may not be pleased with. Of course, Drew Smyly did not opt out of his deal. He'll be trying to win a rotation spot in 2024. Some more disappointment. The NL announced the 2023 MLB announced the 2023 finalists for the Cy Young Award. And to the disappointment of many Cub fans, on the NL side, Justin Steele's name was not on the list. He had a couple bad starts in September and one in Houston when he was sick and still pitched. It didn't seem like Steele would win the award after giving up 6 runs in 2 straight games in September, but not even be nominated? I don't know, Dustin. The finalists were Zach Gallen, Blake Snell, and Logan Webb rounds out the finalists. Logan Webb?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going Logan Webb, then I don't understand how Justin Steele's not part of it, right? I mean, the other two guys are fantastic, right? The other two guys, top notch, no arguments.
Right. I sat there. I said to myself, it's going to be Zach Gallen, Blake Snell, and then I had either Justin Steele or Spencer Strider being 2 guys I thought would have a potential for that 3rd spot. Logan Webb was not in my conversation, so I don't know. Now let's get to some good news here. 5 Cubs have been nominated to the All MLB team. So that's pretty exciting. Those Cubs that were nominated, and fans can vote for them if you go to the Cubs website. But for the Cubs, it's Adbert Alzolay, Cody Bellinger, Nico Horner, Justin Steele, and Dansby Swanson. So Cub fans, get out there and vote for your favorite Cubs, and let's load up the All MLB team. One more award for Cody Bellinger, like he hasn't gotten enough award. He, along with Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani, made People Magazine's list of sexiest men in sports. Some non-baseball athletes include Lionel Messi, Lewis Hamilton, and Travis Kelce, who has been.
Right, so now the list is ruined. I mean, if Travis Kelce, who was also spotted on social media, I know Crawly, I'm amazed that you're mentioning another sport outside of baseball, but Travis Kelce was spotted at the Wiener Circle overnight. And so if you do happen to tune into the Amazon Prime Thursday Night Football game, Bears-Panthers, there's a rumor that you're going to see a Jason Kelce slinging dogs over at Wiener Circle. I'm sure you've been at the Wiener Circle and have been told to go pound sand a few times.
Yeah. I've heard some interesting words from there, but you know what? Always a good time. But I got to ask you, sexiest Cub. I mean, you're looking at Cody Bellinger over Dansby Swanson. Have you seen Dansby Swanson's flow?
I think the ladies all love that hair. The ladies all love the Dansby Swanson hair.
I mean, to me, Cody Bellinger always looks high. So I guess if that's what you're looking for, I mean.
Okay, so you're not the only one, right? Okay.
No. We got a lot of dispensaries around here. I wonder how many visits he makes. That's just the way he looks to me. But if I was voting for sexiest Cub, definitely would have to go with Dansby Swanson over Cody Bellinger. But that's just me.
Well, maybe we should, put that out as a poll question or something, Crawly, on Fly the W.
That sounds like a plan there. And then finally, I just wanted to we wanted to congratulate the Cubs staff who were rated first in overall guest experience and staff experience out of all 30 teams for the 2023 regular season in MLB's Voice of the Consumer program. Dustin, you and I know how awesome those employees are at Wrigley Field, how they truly make it the friendly confines. And now we have proof as the Cubs Wrigley Field experience is rated number 1. thank you so much to all the workers at Wrigley who do such a great job and make it such a fun place to go.
Absolutely. On the last podcast, Cry, it was great to hear you guys had a little celebration for those people. So good for you guys and the whole group over at Club 400. Well, that's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow the socials. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Email us. Fly the W670@gmail.com. You can watch us, Crawly, on YouTube by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel. And the next time we're back, we are going to have thoughts on Craig Counsell, because by the time we do our next podcast, Craig Counsell will be introduced as the next manager of your Chicago Cubs.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting excited. Go Cubs! Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!